Edward "Ed" Gein, known as the Butcher of Plainfield, was a notorious criminal from Wisconsin. His gruesome acts in the 1950s shocked the nation. Gein exhumed corpses from local graveyards and fashioned trophies and keepsakes from their bones and skin. His macabre story inspired famous fictional characters like Norman Bates in Psycho and Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs.
Today I will tell you about one of the most disturbing and, let's be honest, fascinating serial killers in history.
How long have you known Mr. Gein? 7 years. What kind of a man did you know him as?
Well, a man is a nice man, just like anybody else. The only difference I'd say in the man, he seems to be a little odd.
Edward Gein was born on August 27, 1906, in the small farming community of Plainfield, located 2 hours from the city of Crosse, Wisconsin.
Young Ed regularly faced bullying from his peers. He also found no comfort at home, where his father, George Gein,
was frequently unemployed due to his drinking and constantly argued with Ed's mother, Augusta Lerka, who managed the entire household. She ran her own grocery store.
Edward also had a brother, Henry, who was 5 years older than him. Augusta, mother, instantly assumed fear of sexuality and alcoholism in her sons.
She convinced them that all women were inherently sinful vessels. Moreover, they were forbidden to date or even socialize with their peers, and their mother harshly punished them for any disobedience.
So it's not surprise that Ed grew up as a recluse.
On April 1, 1940, his father, George Gein, died at the age of 66 due to heart failure. The brothers, Ed and Henry, began taking odd jobs to support the farm, and their neighbors considered them reliable handymen. Ed even looked after children while Henry started a relationship with a woman who had 2 children from a previous marriage and planned to move in with her.
Henry began criticizing their mother, trying to pull it away from her grip. This drew a wedge between the brothers.
Amid these changes, Henry died, possibly becoming Ed's first victim. On May 16, 1944, the brothers decided to clear vegetation on their fields by burning it.
However, the fire got out of control when the firefighters arrived to put out the blaze.
Ed reported that his brother was missing. Soon after, Henry's body was found face down in a marsh, seemingly dead from asphyxiation.
A year earlier, Augusta had become reliant on Ed, as the stroke had left her relatively immobile for several years.
But this didn't stop her from being as fanatical as ever. She verbally abused her son and died on December 29, 1945, at the age of 67.
Ed was left alone with no friends or family, but he continued to maintain his farm. His hobbies shifted towards reading books about
cannibals, Nazi atrocities, and various aspects of human anatomy, including information about exhumation.
Well, what parts would you take, Paul? The head and the sexual organ.
Yeah, but
What would you do with the sexual parts?
that was in.
One was painted, they said.
Oh, that one, when they died, I just put the paint over it. Is there anything like,
So there's a bunch of photographers from the newspapers want to take a picture. You want to take a picture?
No, that's not yet. Till we get to the statement off.
He went a step further, starting to dig up recently buried women.
Who resembled his mother, but that wasn't all.
He got information about fresh corpses from the local newspaper, but this changing when he began hunting the living.
On November 16, 1957, the owner of a hardware store, Bernice Worden, went missing. After the store had been closed all day, her son, Deputy Sheriff Frank Worden, entered and found the cash register open, bloodstains on the floor, and a single receipt on the counter indicating a purchase of antifreeze. Remembering Ed Gein had mentioned buying antifreeze the previous evening.
Frank arrested Ed that the same evening. During a search of the farm, law enforcement found much more than they could have imagined.
They walked into a literal house of horrors. They first discovered Bernice's headless body hanging upside down in a shed. She had been shot with a .22 caliber rifle. Her head was found in a sack, and her heart was near the stove.
The next discovery
was the remains of the missing 50-year-old Mary Hogan, a tavern owner who had disappeared in December 1954. She had been gutted, and Ed had made a mask from her face, which was found in a paper bag, while her skull was kept in a box.
The police also found skulls mounted on bedposts where Ed slept and woke up.
Additionally, there were skulls repurposed into bowls and cups, skin used to cover chairs, decorate a wastebasket, and make lampshades out of human faces. He also used the skin to make clothing.
Would you enjoy it while you were doing it?
That's the worst part of it. I really didn't then. I knew better, like, restless.
When you dig these graves up, you were kind of in a haze too, is that it?
That's what I could do, just how you look at it.
And then one time you said you were trying to realize what you were doing and you covered her up without taking anything.
That's right.
Then what would you do with the head?
That must have been taken from reading about these magazines and everything. Taking the collection up like a headhunter.
Edward Theodore Gein told investigators
that he would enter a trance-like state and visit cemeteries about 40 times between 1947 and 1952. Usually, he could resist robbing graves, but he often returned home with body parts of women who, in his view, resembled his mother.
He admitted to robbing 9 graves and led the police to some of them to prove he was strong enough to perform the task alone.
He also revealed that he wanted to become a woman. He realized this after his mother's death, and to satisfy his desire, Ed began sewing women's suits from the skin of corpses so he could become his mother and crawl into her skin.
This is how he explained it to law enforcement. Eventually, Ed was sentenced to life in prison
For the murder of Bernice Worden. However, during a second trial, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity and was committed to the Central State Hospital for the criminally insane with a diagnosis of schizophrenia.
In 1968, Gein was transferred
to the Mendota State Hospital in Madison, where he died of lung cancer at the age of 77 in 1984. Gein's farm burned down shortly after it was sold at auction in 1958. But how many people did Edward kill? He confessed to only 2 murders, Bernice Worden and Mary Hogan. The police found remains of about 15 people in his house, but he claimed he only robbed graves.